Hello, Year 2. Welcome to Monday's video for writing. Thank you for all of the fantastic work you've sent in so far. We are so impressed with everything that we are receiving. So I really hope you're enjoying all the writing tasks so far. Poles Apart is certainly one of my favourite books, and I'm sure it might be one of your favourite books too now. So, your very first task is we would like you to read what you have written in your story so far to somebody at home. So, pop me on pause whilst you're doing this. Okay, well done for doing that. It's really important that sometimes we just stop and reread what we've written so far, just so we can be sure whereabouts we are with our work. So, next up, I would like you to find your copy of the plan for your story. So, this is probably on the map. I would like you to look at the plan and the story and think about whereabouts are you on the plan? Have you followed the plan or have you adapted? Have you changed it a bit? And it's okay if you've altered it a little bit. So you might have changed the country or you might have changed the animal that Mr. White and the chick visited and found. And finally, have a think about, do you need to add any more detail to what you have written? Do you think there's an opportunity for you to add in some extra adjectives or perhaps even some expanded noun phrases, so some extra descriptive language into your work? Pop me on pause whilst you're doing this. Okay, really fantastic work. It's really important that we take our time with story writing and break this down into certain stages so that we can make sure each section, each part of our story is really looking fantastic. So, next up, you've got a bigger task now. Continue writing your story from where you got up to and write about the second place that Mr. White and the chick visit. So we've got a checklist for you here. We'd like you to make sure you're writing in the past tense. So instead of walk, you'll be saying walked, went, travelled. So a lot of these will have the ed suffix. The suffix, remember, that's our word ending, ed, because it's the past tense. So we'd also like you to make sure you are describing where the characters are, how the characters are feeling, who they met in that country, and if you can, try and use an animal that would live there. So, just like Mrs. Gold gave the example of a fox living in England, I have provided the example of a panda living in China. So, you will need to be describing how that character helps them on their journey. For example, the panda carried the little chick on his back through the cool, wet bamboo forest until they got to the mountain. And now you'll also need to be describing what is the problem. So, for example, the chick was scared of heights and felt worried he wouldn't be able to make it up the mountain. And remember to keep using those repetitive phrases. So, for example, China was too stranded, so they traveled to, and look down here, we've got that ellipsis, 3 dots, we've got the dot, 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 and that creates a bit of suspense. So as your reader is reading the story, they will think, well, where have they travelled to? And they're going to want to carry on reading the story to find out where the characters have travelled to next. Okay, pop me on pause whilst you're doing this and enjoy your task. Okay, really great work, Year 2. Don't forget, if you would like to reread Poles Apart, the story, you can always flick back and find the video just to get some more ideas. That is absolutely fine. So next up, now that you've written about the second destination that Mr. White and the chick have visited, we would like you to proofread and edit your work so far. So using a red pen if you've got one, I would like you to look for the following. So, first of all, checking for capital letters. Make sure you have got those capital letters at the start of your sentence. And remember, we also use capital letters for proper nouns. So, proper nouns are names and places. So, for example, Mr. White and England. And also, remember, we use the personal pronoun I. That's a capital letter. But although this font has I written like this, I'm going to use my pen just to remind you how we write I at Billingshurst. So we just do it with a line, just a line like that. So next up, I'd like you to check for punctuation. Have you got full stops at the end of your sentence? Have you got a question mark for questions or an exclamation mark for exciting sentences or surprise? And have you got that ellipsis, those dots at the end of your work to create that suspense before we find out what the next country is? We'd like you to be checking your spellings against the year 1 and 2 common exception word lists and just check that it makes sense. So reread your work. You might like to do this in your head or read it out loud. Check that you've got the right tense. Have you missed any words out? And is your work clear? And finally, thinking about your audience, the purpose for your writing, are you entertaining your reader? Have you got some really good vocabulary choices? Have you got those adjectives, those describing words? Are you painting a really exciting picture in the reader's head? Are they going to want to carry on finding out what happens in your story? So that will be your last task for this part of the writing lesson. Really well done today. We are so looking forward to seeing everything via the Year 2 email address. Keep up the great work and I'll see you in the next video.